And now, weighing in out of the blue corner, Josh the Punk Thompson. 100% and on the other mic, he weighs in from the red corner, Big John McCarthy.
We have another special guest today. We had one yesterday. Now we got another one today. Ben Askren, my man. Thank you for joining us this week.
Yeah, how are you guys doing today?
Good, man. How's the quarantine going, bud?
Well, I started on March 13th. I took it seriously. I was following it when it was in China. I even, for the first time, I told my wife to go buy a bunch of, extra supplies. So we did that.
So you've got all the toilet paper.
I did not. I couldn't get that one. I was like, why?
That's the dumbest thing ever.
Oh my God, it's so stupid. Like, why would I buy toilet paper? I mean, if I had to, I just wipe my ass with a rag. I'd wash the rag and I'd wipe it again. It's my ass. It doesn't need to be clean.
Hello. Jump in the damn shower.
Buy
It's
some food.
the last thing you need to stock up on is toilet paper. But some moron put that out there and everyone followed.
That's so
yes.
great.
I couldn't get that. I couldn't get that for the life of me. So I've really only seen my wife and my brother. We shut down our wrestling academies on March 13th, which sucks because it's like our busiest time. We actually, we had 1 week. So we don't coach the high school kids during the season. The high school kids were off. We had them for 1 week. We had our biggest spring ever. A lot of new faces. We were really excited. And then, we had to shut it down. So it was really unfortunate and just been staying at home, doing podcasting. I'm building a disc golf course outside, so I'm kind of staying busy with that and watching my kids.
Hold it, you're building a what?
Disc golf course?
Disc golf course.
Big John, I know you
Come
disc golf. Don't lie.
I do not disc golf, dude.
Why?
Because I would suck at it.
No, because you used to be a police officer and you thought all the disc golfers were potheads, didn't you?
Hey, I got a question.
Yes,
I got a question for you. We, with the loss of the NC2A championships in wrestling, and then a lot of these guys actually trying to extend a year, and they were turned down by the NC2A. What do you think of that?
Oh man, that's a tough one because logistically speaking, most colleges have promised they've guaranteed 1 year of scholarship to the next class coming in. Most of them have recruited now 2 years out, right? The recruiting process starts really early now. So a lot of juniors are already committed and they're not allowed to give scholarship offers, but they essentially have. So it's like if you give an extra year of eligibility, you have to deal with that for 2 years. So that's going to be a large issue. Obviously, it's not just in wrestling. It's in any winter sport.
Every sport, yeah.
So I would definitely lean towards they should have done it, but I can understand why a lot of coaches, administrators were intimidated by the issue because I think it brings a whole bunch of problems back on them. And, we actually just saw Old Dominion drop their program yesterday, and I think that's unfortunate. But I think I've been talking to a bunch of college coaches, and athletic departments are not as stable as I would have assumed. I thought they were way more stable, but a lot of them are going to be in a lot of problems with the NCAA basketball tournament getting canceled, which is a huge moneymaker. They split that a lot of different ways. And then obviously now people are worried. They're already worried about the football season, which I don't foresee this going that long, although I'm not an expert, so maybe don't take my word for it.
You're talking like almost triple the amount of money basketball makes during their March Madness, the college season makes. So I can't imagine them, especially now with Trump came out yesterday and was talking with all the sports organizations saying, you guys got to get back on track because not only are we losing money, but that's kind of what helps keep the economy afloat. People get interested in watching sports, and then all of a sudden they get out and they start buying product for their kids, whether it's cleats, whether it's gear, whatever it is. That kind of helps keep the market going as well. We may potentially see the market shut down, like all the in-store shopping might be done now. People realize they have to do everything online.
Josh.
Yeah,
I don't know what you guys are like in California, but say down the road from me, Best Buy is shut down, Kohl's is shut down. I think they said non-essential, which, that's kind of a finicky term, but a lot of the big businesses around here the Starbucks by me doesn't have a drive-through, so it's totally shut down. It's really crazy. Yeah,
everything here is takeout. I'm in the Bay Area, so we're like one of the feeding grounds for this thing right now. So we still don't have a lot of cases. I want to say we're at like 2,000 cases total, I think, and I think only like maybe under 100 deaths or at 100 deaths, I think, right now. But it's a shitty situation to be in because all these businesses like me, I've been shut down for over a month, and I have another month to go. I mean, and I'm just back and forth with my landlords, and I've got two buildings and I'm paying rent on, and it's a lot to take in. I think it's a lot to take in for a lot of people. I think you're going to start seeing, we're going to see whether we are going to, our parents, because now they're homeschooling, they're going to be like, hey, do I even need to pay for these schools when I can just have my kids do it at home?
Homeschool is miserable.
They're all like, everybody I know has been talking about it. They're like, no. So they're like, get them out of here. They start drinking at 10 a.m., all the parents. But I think also all the online sales, this is teaching people how to shop online, get things delivered, not have to worry about going to the store.
Yeah.
I mean, they podcast Dave here was talking about yesterday. He was at the store and they actually have taped lines where you're allowed to stand when you're when you're buying your stuff. Stay 6 feet away. I went to Costco. Every line was open, and because they don't want people talking or near each other, so they wanted to make sure every line was open. So they're having to pay more people to work and less revenues coming in. I mean, that's got to kill major businesses. Yeah, especially small businesses.
Yeah, well, I mean, we applied for, I don't know if you applied for the small business loans. We applied the other day. We have 5 wrestling academies. It seems to be a pretty good deal if we get accepted and everything, but it's 8 weeks of pay and it's loan forgiveness. Like you don't have to pay it back for 8 weeks. If your loan extends longer than that, I guess you have to pay it back or whatever. Yeah. But it's all rent, utilities, and payroll are all written off within that loan. So
I filed that same paperwork, but it didn't say anything about rent in it. It just said for the payroll. So that's why I filled out all the payroll, but it said rent. You click the box for rent as well. Yeah. But you got to include that figure into it. But when it talks to you later on in the application, it only talks about payroll. And so even though that's one of the boxes you click, so I just threw everything in there all at once to see what it is. It's pretty expensive to live out here, man. The rent here is not cheap. Everyone's paying, big dollars. I mean, for 6,000 square feet or per square foot, it's like $4 a square foot with like a 60-cent triple net. It's ridiculous. So
how much per square foot?
$4. Oh yeah. Some of these places are like $4.25 and almost $5.
That's not that terrible.
That's what you get for a storefront. That's why I went to a commercial area, 75 cents a square foot.
So you say that.
That's so cheap.
Thank you very much. I had 30,000 square feet though.
So here's the thing. But here, when
like $4 a square foot here, Josh. I thought it'd be way more expensive by you.
Yeah, but I'm actually kind of one of the cheaper ones because I'm in one of those old like strip mall kind of thing places. Got it. People just come here because me.
John, I've never seen $75 or 75 cents a square foot. I've never seen that.
Yeah,
you got commercial areas, man. Then you just got to go through the problems getting the city to allow.
That's what happened right now. So you remember all the CrossFitters were in the commercial areas, like the big warehouses, and then the city came in and said, if you're already in, you can stay. But if you're trying to apply for one, no, because there's no parking for it. You can't have parking for that business. It's meant to be a warehouse.
Makes sense.
So I mean,
here's my question. When you've got your school and you had your school for a while, same as Josh had his, I had mine. I got rid of it, thank God. But with this, have you actually thought about how long you can go before you say, I can't reopen my school?
Oh, yes, of course I have.
The problem is, so we actually were in a really good situation. We were conservative. We had about 4 months where we could pay all of the employees, pay our rents, and be fine. Obviously, with this loan, it's going to be even longer than that. But and then that's without us dipping in any personal fund. My brother and I could dip into personal funds as well. But the one of the things we say is like, dude, if the economy shut down for 4 months, we got bigger problems than our wrestling academies. Like if the whole economy shut down for 4 months. Well, luckily I got Bitcoin, so I'm probably gonna be fine. My brother's got Bitcoin; he's probably gonna be fine. But
Bitcoin ain't gonna be worth nothing.
John, you better go buy some Bitcoin as a hedge.
It's some Bitcoin, baby.
You need to buy some Bitcoin, and you'll be thanking me later. So, if the economy shut down for 4 months, we got bigger issues than our wrestling academies. I mean, you already saw the unemployment spike in a week or 2 weeks of this shutdown. If we go 4 months, dude, it's gonna be depression era type of shit. So that's why, obviously the coronavirus is dangerous, but at the same time, 4 months or, of economic shutdown is going to be
catastrophe. It's going to be a catastrophe for everybody, not just us here in the States. It's going to be worldwide. I mean, they'll be fucking robbing and looting and doing all the things that we don't want people to be doing, and that's why gun sales jumped up so much. People were kind of thinking
in California.
Yeah. Yes.
All you liberals bought guns. What the hell?
No, look at them.
Whoa.
One thing happens. They change.
I didn't buy guns. I already had a bunch of them. I already have a bunch of them. So, it's funny because one of my brothers, he's a police officer. So I just took him down and we were able to get a couple of guns because they get discounts. So
Nice.
Oh, you cheap bastard.
yes, I am.
cheap
I am a
bastard.
frugal son of a bitch when it comes to things like that.
I just remember you saying all this bad stuff about your brother, but boy, when you get a discount, look at you, man.
Yeah, I'm like, yo, let's go. So
do you guys think that they're going to pull off UFC 249, or
No.
what's your guys' take on it?
well, we had a conversation yesterday with Chael, and Chael brought up a great point. There was one country that we didn't even consider, and John, why don't you take it away? John's worked there several times.
Antarctica.
No,
it's close.
It's
Chechnya.
Chechnya is not technically its own country. I mean, they kind of.
Yes, it is.
Oh.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I'm a geography major, John. I'm
go
gonna
ahead.
fact check you on this.
Go ahead. There's, if you're, and they consider themselves Chechnya.
he's Googling it right now.
Okay, go ahead.
He's Googling it right now.
It's part
Chechnya.
of, you got to look. It's like a
Federal subject of the Russian Federation.
That's right. It used to be a buffer state for, Russia, but yeah, it's considered its own country, even though it's still under the sovereign. They look at Putin as still a guy, but the person who's in charge is Kadyrov. But it's funny because I've done fights there. They consider MMA their national sport. He built an arena specifically for MMA. It's just got a small little footprint at the bottom for the cage to fit.
Wow, nice.
It goes up. If there's one place that, you could probably, they're going to say, we don't have coronavirus here. So
they're going to say it.
Yeah, that's what they're going to say. So.
Yeah, that's the hot area for wrestling too. I've been to Vladikavkaz, which is not Chechnya, but it's really, really close.
Close.
And then Makhachkala is really good for wrestling. Nalchik, all those areas down there.
That Makhachkala, that's where Islam and Khabib are from, in that area of Dagestan, correct?
Yep. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
I want to make sure I don't ever murder that name. Like I hear them say it all the time, but I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, is that the same spot? I always think to myself, I'm not familiar with those areas. I never went over there. So,
Wait, so did you guys say yes or no? You do think that we'll pull it off?
So
I don't think so.
I don't think so. But if they were to do it, I think that would probably be the only place. And the other thing too is, what's going to be the card? And if you were Tony Ferguson, like we talked about, I talked this yesterday with Chael, why? Why would you take it? Why would the fight that wants to be made, that everybody wants to see, is just him and Khabib? I don't really give a shit about him and Justin Gaethje. Sure, I'd love to see that fight. That's a great fight. But I want to see I want to see the title on the line against him and Khabib. Yes. That's one. And two is, I want to see the best two versions of those guys. And I'm not going to get that right now. We won't get that. They have no idea where the fucking show is right now. Yeah. Both fighters are up in the air. And if they were to do it in Chechnya, I mean, Tony's got to fly all the way to that country.
You're less than 2 weeks out.
Yeah.
Less than 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, I said if they are going to do it, what I would do, you're going to have a bunch of these beta male reporters, trying to guilt the local government into turning them down. So if I were Dana and I were doing the show, I am not telling anyone till like 4 p.m. the weigh-in happens, then everyone finds out where we're at. Because I'm not going to give them an extra week or 2 weeks to try to guilt the local government or the governor or representatives into canceling it. I'm not doing that. I'm gonna freaking privately fly everyone in. I'm gonna put on the show. I'm not gonna tell anyone. If I really want to do it, that's how I'm gonna do it.
That's true. If you want to try to do it in the States, but there's no way of them getting it done in the States.
There's no way you're going to get it done here.
Like he was saying, there's only 4 states that are really open to potentially doing it.
But that's still 4.
Yeah. So what you're saying is there's still a chance. I still got a chance. I think.
So you're saying, and there's a chance.
One of those states is South Dakota, correct?
South Dakota, North Dakota.
And one of the biggest places there is where Sioux Falls is. They have that new arena that they just built there in Sioux Falls at Sanford Health. And that
you did say health, right?
Yeah, Sanford Health. Yeah. Sanford Health. So, but that arena, I mean, I could see them potentially, if South Dakota was willing to do it, I could see them potentially doing it there. That's a hotbed for MMA. What's it called? Bader's manager lives there. Yep. What's it called? American Ethanol is out of there.
Yeah,
they've got the money and the resources to make it all work, and just it'd be close to the public. And I could see them potentially, if they were to do it in the state, they already have connections and links there. I could see them potentially doing it there, but I still don't think so. I don't think so.
But let me ask you this: just put this into consideration. So they do. We'll say they do it. Okay. And they sit there, and you can sit there and say what you want. We've learned that taking someone's temperature doesn't mean shit because if you're asymptomatic in it, your temperature can be low and you still have it, and you're still someone that can spread it to somebody else.
Yeah.
So then let's say that they do the show, they do it without any people in the stands.
Yes.
But one of the fighters, one of the trainers, one of the staff of the UFC comes down with the coronavirus, and God forbid they have it so bad they lose their life. Was it worth it?
I would say you have to leave that up to every individual. I'm a guy who loves freedom, so I'm going to say leave that up to the fighters. These fighters already make the choice to get in the cage with someone. I mean, technically, no one's died in sanctioned MMA, but a lot of people
technically
died in boxing.
Stop.
What?
Don't even say that. That's not true. People have died in regulated MMA.
How many?
Absolutely.
How many?
How many in regulated MMA?
Regulated, yes.
I can give you 2, and one was last year. Herb Dean was the referee.
Okay, so we'll say 2.
And that was, you're talking about Chechnya. That's where it was at.
Okay, so we'll say
Sammy Vasquez was the first in Texas.
Okay, so well, that's even more to my point, John. So we've had people die in MMA. We've had a lot of people die in boxing. I mean, boxing, we're in the 4 to 5 figures of deaths. You still let people get in the boxing ring, don't you?
Yeah, but boxing's been around 15 times longer. It's been way longer.
Point? They still die. They still die. We know inherently that is a very dangerous activity. 2 adults want to come together and box, whatever.
Stop. Do you know what is the number one as far as injury rate in professional sports? And then do you know what the number one is as far as sports that hurts people with life-altering injuries?
Oh, life-altering. No, are we talking per capita or total amount?
I would imagine volleyball is probably pretty high up there.
Oh my God, volleyball! Did you just say that? Did you just say that?
Well, we're talking per capita. If we're talking per capita, I would say.
Give you a little history here. When you're talking about professional sports, Professional Bull Riding Association.
Oh, I would. Yeah,
15 out of every 15 rides, they have one major injury.
You let people do that
out of every 15 rides. And if you're going to say what is the number one injury for sports as far as life-threatening, cross-country equestrian riding. Little people on big horses going over large obstacles that don't move. Horse falls on top of the person, crushes them.
All right.
They don't do well.
So
okay,
so go ahead.
So you guys are both, I mean, you're okay with those sports existing. And so.
No, I hate those sports. No, I'm just kidding.
So what I would say
well played,
is
John. Well
if you
played.
want to be extra careful, then say, listen, if you're going to fight on this card, we're going to give you an extra 20, 30, 40% on your purse. And maybe this is if Dana's really determined to get this done. And you're going to self-quarantine afterwards. And you're going to sign an agreement that says, we're going to pay you extra, but you are going to self-quarantine for 14 days or whatever. And that's another way. I mean, there's just ways to get it done if you really want to get it done. I mean, we're talking about a death rate of 0.1%. The bull riding, you're talking about 1 out of 15. That's like 7-ish%. Way more dangerous.
Well, most of them are not dying, thank God, but they're getting hurt.
But Ben, here's the thing.
But bull riders are tough.
Ben, listen, what this is
dumb too.
This is the issue, though, is that did you just call Cowboy Cerrone dumb?
Yes.
Does he ride bulls?
He loves ride bulls.
Hold on, Josh. Have you ever put your ass on the back of a bull?
No, and I never will.
Okay, I have.
Absolutely not.
And I tell everyone the dumbest decision I ever made was putting my ass on the back of a bull.
Yeah, okay? I have no
My
desire.
friends thought it was fucking hysterical.
I have no desire.
For about 2.5 seconds, I thought I was going to die.
I'll jump out of I've jumped out of airplanes plenty of times. I'll do that multiple times over than doing a bull ride. There's no damn way. So here's the only issue that I have with what both of you guys are talking about is that you have to remember that since these guys are signed under the contract with the UFC, and I want to give you guys what happened from before. There was this show out called The Blind Date. Okay, and a couple of fighters had to do the blind date back in the day in the beginning of the UFC. 5 fighters were meant to do it. They asked Chuck Liddell, they asked me, they asked Nick Diaz, Nick Diaz told Dana to go fuck himself. Literally after that, that was right after he knocked out Robbie Lawler. He went from being on the show, he went to being on the undercard to being cut. I'm letting you know, like you're putting fighters in a position now where they don't want to do it because maybe they're concerned about their safety in terms of, I could bring it home to my elderly grandparent or my kids that I live with, on a daily basis after I do this fight. I could do that, but they also need the money. But you're also kind of forcing them into a position of, hey, I'm your boss. You're going to do this fight.
Josh, so listen, I would agree with that sentiment that Dana is a bully to a lot of the fighters. 100% agree. So now you got fighter X and fighter Y, and they say they can't pay their rent or feed their families unless they go do this fight. Mm-hmm. And they want to choose, they're a healthy 27-year-old adult, okay? And they want you to go to the fight, and they live at home by themselves, or maybe with a live-in girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, whatever they're getting down with. And they want to go take that small risk of getting coronavirus and bring it back and self-quarantine. Are you going to say they should not be allowed to do that? Because no. I think the answer is they should.
No, I'm saying that these fighters are being put in a position they have to make the choice to fight.
Yeah.
If they're asked to be on that card, they're not being. They can't say no. Or they can end up like Nick Diaz on the undercard of the undercard of Facebook. Okay, and then after that, they're going to end up cut. If you tell them no, I've heard this story many of times, and not only that, it's happened to me. When I turned down to fight somebody after the Pettis fight was taken away for the title, I said no, I want to fight someone in the top 3. Joe Silva says, hey, well fuck it, he can sit on the sidelines for 6 months to a year.
Yeah,
I said fine, I'll sit on the sidelines then for 6 months to a year. I'm financially stable, I can do that. And then a week later, I get a call to fight Benson. But my point is, they will put you in those type of positions.
Yeah, I agree.
And then, so now putting these young fighters in that position, they have no choice but to say yes if they're asked to fight.
I want to point something out, since I know Ben didn't see it, but Josh was on that blind date show.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was. Who else was on? It was Tim Sylvia, Pete Spratt, Tiki Goshen, myself, and there was one other guy.
Yeah, Tiki. I remember that.
It was all 5. Tiki ended up having to go on the show, and when he went on the show, it was with his friend's girlfriend they came on the show to be his date. Yeah. She was trying to be like an actress or whatever. So they actually picked her out of a modeling agency. She came on the show and ended up being his friend's girlfriend at the time out there in Huntington Beach. It was funny.
And so, John, you said Josh has never rode a bull. You should have seen who he went home with after that show.
She was hot. She was hot. No, she was bad. But like I'm saying, these guys are being painted into the corner by the UFC. If they're asked to fight on that fight, they can't say no. They can't say no.
So I'm agreeing with you on that totally, but I'm also agreeing that some fighters, they don't need to be guilted. They don't need to be pressured.
No, they don't.
They want to go do it.
They do.
Right? There's a balance there.
Yeah, but also fighters, we've said this for years, athletes themselves, not just fighters, all need to be protected from themselves. Because like you
especially
have
fighters
in football players, like, I have a concussion, put me back out there, coach. That's what they'll always get. Wrestlers will do it, fighters will do it, football players will do it. They'll continue to play, and they'll try to continue to play because that's that they love doing the sport. They love being part of the sport. They need to be protected from themselves. Pushing these people to do this event, knowing at the time, the only person that has the chance to say no, I'm not fighting this fight is Tony Ferguson. After all the shit that's gone through to get this fight together, he's the only one that has the enough clout to say, I'm not fighting anymore. I'm not going to fight Justin Gaethje and potential losing the chance of the title. I don't have to do it. He doesn't have to. He's the only one on the card. The rest of the guys on that card, they're all going to be forced to fight.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. The other thing I would do if I was UFC too, I would limit the card. I mean, I think you're at a point where there's effing nothing on TV and people are going to watch anything that they can. You can put on 6 fights, right? You don't have to do a full 12-fight card. You could do something really, really small like that and still get decent ratings. And the other thing here, Josh, and I don't know that this is true, but a lot of people are assuming that the UFC is feeling financial pressure because ESPN's not going to pay them if they don't put on the shows that they're contractually obligated to put on.
Yeah, I think that's going on for all the promotions though right now. Bellator's got the same issue. We have contractual obligations to do a certain amount of shows every year. And now we're going to have to play catch up. If this thing goes past May, they're biting their nails thinking, man, how am I going to make up this amount of shows? For Bellator, it's 30 something shows and UFC's 52 in a year. They've got a lot of shows to make up.
I'm going to give you one word. Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think that, I think they're just gonna have a lot to make up after that. And I agree with you 100%. They don't need to put on undercards. Put 5 fights on a main card, show it on TV, and that's all you got to do. You only got to fly out 10 people. Not really a whole lot of hotels, not a lot of expenses going out. You're not getting the gate to cover the fighters' purses like you normally do. 5 fights only for TV and be done. I will remind people that Cain Velasquez and Dos Santos fought on Fox for the first time, and it was 1 fight, and they only aired that 1 fight. Why not? I mean, it may start trending us towards boxing, where you just have 1 or 2 good fights on a card.
Yeah.
That will suck because that's what MMA is known for, is the 5 fights, on a main card and a bunch of, a bunch of good fights. But I could see them, if they wanted to really, like you said, get this done, we could end up seeing just Tony and Khabib fight somewhere and just have that one fight and everybody would tune in. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. I totally agree. I would tune in. I actually I pitched Hunter Campbell. I said, dude, you only need to do Tony versus Khabib. Give them one tournament each. No one else. I think if you did that, the pay-per-view of that versus the pay-per-view of normal would probably be 80 to 90%.
Yeah. There's nothing out. There's nothing out right now. I get concerned about when you start talking pay-per-view numbers because people right now, the one thing they're strapped for is money. So I think you'd have to put it on, maybe if you put it on the ESPN, didn't charge the pay-per-view, but you just charge the, whatever their fee is, what, $5, $10, $9, I don't know what it is. If you just charge that for them to get logged in and be a member at ESPN Plus and they can make money that way, they'll get a ton more signups just for that one fight. Or you do, like you said, you just do one card, but it's going to be on ESPN Plus and it's $10 or whatever it is.
Awfully expensive fight for you to put out.
I agree. I understand.
Especially when you're getting no gate.
Yep. But you got to remember, though, the ESPN is paying them to put product on their thing. Yeah. So they're not really, they are losing money, of course, for that fight. They are. But it's a lot better than a kick in the nuts if you wait, if the fight never comes to fruition. Correct. I think it'd be stupid if he fought Justin Gaethje, because there's a chance he could lose that fight. I think a small chance, but there's a good chance. There is a chance he could lose that fight. And if that happens, then you lose all the hype and the steam behind Tony and Khabib. And that fight right there, I think, is going to do huge pay-per-view numbers. Not Conor and Khabib numbers, but you're looking at 1.5, I think, somewhere in there, 1.4, 1.6, somewhere in there, I think, for that fight. Agreed.
Tony Khabib is going to do really well. The other thing I didn't even realize till I looked it up. I was doing my own podcast with Front Row Brian the other day, and Tony's only fought once a year for the last, I believe, 3 years. Yeah, I'll look this up to confirm. And he is 36 years old. I thought Tony was like 31. I couldn't believe he was older than me.
He's getting
He's getting up in age, but he is. He doesn't have much time. So that's the thing. Yeah. And then now this fight is not going to happen because of Ramadan also. Khabib's going to have to push this out probably past Ramadan. It starts the end of June into through July, I believe.
On the lunar calendar, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's all the way through July until you hit August. I think it's for the full month.
Ben, you made a statement. I'm going to ask you a question off of. You made the statement that, sometimes fighters feel bullied by Dana. Okay. We all know that, he's got his ups and downs. He had his ups and downs.
This is John right now. This is John right now, you guys. This is John.
Go for it.
The one thing that I really, when you were coming out of Bellator, at the time, and I was roughing fights, but I said, at the time, Bjorn Rebney was the guy that was in charge of Bellator.
Yep.
And I had said, man, if Bjorn Rebney's got any brains, he tells Dana, hey, he actually forces Dana into a situation. George St. Pierre is your welterweight champion. Ben Askren is ours. I'll give you Ben Askren. You put the fight on there, and if he wins, he's just your champion. You can even keep his contract. But I thought it would have really fucking helped him with his product in using you, because he was not going to be re-signing you anyways. And here's my question.
No, Bjorn did that. I think that was one of the things that actually screwed me.
I don't know if that's what he did, but you had that point where Dana was trying to put you down and say you weren't ready for the UFC and everything. Then you ended up going to one, and you did great there. But you ended up, when you finally came to UFC, you seemed to have a really good relationship with Dana.
My relationship with Dana is non-existent.
Oh, okay.
I probably texted him since I unretired and got traded to UFC. Probably texted him maybe 6 times. I think maybe talked to him on the phone once, but I don't even want to say for sure once, but maybe once, right? I dealt a lot with Hunter Campbell. He's been really awesome to deal with.
Smart guy.
Really smart guy. So my relationship with Dana is non-existent. So back in the day, I got screwed really hard, but it was because Bellator and UFC were bickering. I think I'm blanking on exactly what the words that Bjorn used were to try to force the fight between me and George, but I think that was one of the things that ended up screwing me, because Dana for a while under the table, they were saying, we're really interested, get rid of your contract. And then the second I got rid of my Bellator contract, they said, we're not interested anymore.
Yep.
And it really, really screwed me hard. So I ended up going to one championship. And, one of the things that I thought was, Dana miscalculated is, he thought I was boring and no one liked me. And he knew I was a really good fighter in 2012 when my free agency, or 2013 when my free agency came about. But he thought I was going to be popular. And so obviously my 1 year stint in the UFC proved that was completely incorrect. And, obviously I don't like living in the past, but do I wish I had the opportunity in 2013? Yeah, of course I do. And I didn't. I got the shot that I wanted. It was a little later than I wanted, but whatever, at least I got it.
Yeah, what chance? Because I called your fight. I called two of your fights in one when you first went over there, and it just seemed like it was because a lot of those guys over there are stand-up guys, and none of them have anywhere near the wrestling and grappling that you had. Yeah, and so it just made it was a replay of everything you were able to do.
Yeah,
and then getting to the UFC, do you feel like do you feel like the UFC knew what they were doing by bringing you on later on in your career?
Yes and no. I was, so obviously just for what, and Dana, to be honest, John, I want to sit down with Dana and say, I have my theories, but I want to know exactly why I didn't get signed in 2013. I never got the opportunity, so we are not close. I never even got to sit down one-on-one with him, because that was the first question I was going to ask him. Like, I have my theories, but I just want to actually, for me, I just want to know. I don't need to tell anybody. I just want to know. I never got to sit down with him. So, when I went over to one championship, I was happy. They treated me well.
Yeah.
And, my contract never lapsed. I was never a free agent. And so, when I decided to retire in 2017, it was like, okay, I put out the statement unless I get the chance to come back. And I thought that likelihood was probably not all that good. I thought there was probably a small chance that would happen. And then, but even when they won championship, Chacha called me and says, hey, we're going to trade you. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I thought there were a lot of different ways that this could go down, that I could get a chance to fight some of the best people in the world, but trading them wasn't one of them. So yeah, I mean, you just never know how things are going to turn out. And I think it's kind of something, earlier in my life, I thought you could kind of plan things a little more. And now I know you guys, some things you can plan, but sometimes you got to be ready to roll with the punches too.
I know that there was some talk between Bellator and the UFC about a potential trade. Leave the names out, but I know that there was some talk right before your guys' trade went through. Are you think we're going to see more of this? Have you heard anything about maybe potentially seeing more of this?
I thought we would, because of how much excitement it brought. I mean, anytime you add a new wrinkle to something, you're going to get a whole bunch of excitement. And so, maybe if it starts happening 20 times a year, it's going to be less of a big deal. But just think of it, if it happened like one time a year or 2 times a year, I think every single one of those times would be a big deal. It would be a big deal because you're going to say, how would this guy do against this guy? That's one of the most interesting things about fighting, is when you don't know what would happen. What becomes boring is when you know what will happen. Yeah. And so when you say, let's see, how would Michael Chandler do? We've never seen him outside Bellator. How's he going to do? I'm not sure, right? How would Douglas Lima do? I don't know. We've never seen him outside of that promotion. How would On Long Song do? We don't know. We've never seen him outside that promotion, right? And so when you start mixing and matching some of these things, I believe it would become much more interesting. You can't do it too many times, but you got to do it.
Do you think possibly that would be a better way to go? So neither promotion is hurt at all, is doing trades versus cross promotion. Because everyone keeps shutting down the cross promotion idea, because UFC's like, oh, they've got too much to lose. It makes their fighters look bad if they lose to other outside organizations. But if you do trades, it doesn't really do anything. Like, sure, the guy was a champion over there and he comes over and now he's here. But you got to remember, there's a lot of shit and a lot of baggage that goes with. You fought in 2 other different promotions after Bellator. It's stressful to go to another promotion and all the shit is around you. Like, okay, I was champion over there. If I lose here, it doesn't look good. And obviously the money, you get paid pretty well when you go to the next promotion. They want to take care of you because, hey, you were a champion of that organization. Yeah. There's a lot more added pressure on you to perform in the new organization. Are we going to potentially, there's a lot of stress that comes along with it. I think that we would potentially see more of the trade business going on to save face and value for the promotions versus cross-promotion fights.
I would agree, and like I said, I was kind of surprised it hasn't happened a couple more times since mine. I thought mine would kind of open the door, and they would start saying, "Oh, this is kind of cool." A lot of people got really excited about this.
Yeah.
It turned out really well for us. Let's do it again. But yeah, for whatever reason, they haven't. And you know, I think Bellator and UFC are competing for the same American market. Yeah. So even if it was Bellator and one in UFC, I think it would be a good deal for both parties.
John?
Well, my other question is this. You've been known for your wrestling and your wrestling, you know, what you did at the University of Missouri and the NCAA championships and going to the Olympics. You recently, not quite recently, but over a year ago, you did a Beat the Streets and you took on Jordan Burroughs.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I was talking with Chael about it at the time, and I go, Ben's got to know this is not a good match for him. You know?
Of course.
Of course. But I go, I have to really give you credit that you walked into that saying, yeah, hey, I'm doing this for wrestling. I'm doing this to help wrestling get some money, get some interest going. And there was one point in that match I got to ask you, because, you know, Jordan is known for his double leg.
Yeah.
And he takes you off of the mat, and you got up and you had this look on your face like, well, there it is. That's what I expected. Yeah. What were you thinking when he dropped you off of the mat at that point?
Well, so I actually, when I retired in November of 2017, Jordan was the only great wrestler of this generation that I hadn't worked out with in some way, shape, or form. And I wanted to. I love wrestling, so I wanted to go work out with him. So I flew myself down to Lincoln, Nebraska, and I'm pretty good friends with the assistant coach there. And I worked out with them for 3 days, and I had a blast. Yeah, I knew what the score was. I thought I could maybe get a takedown in the match, you know, and keep it remotely competitive, which I wasn't able to do. I knew my chances of beating him were really, 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 really minuscule.
Yeah.
But so in that first exchange, I caught his hand. And so what I knew is if I turned back in, I was going to get skied, right? So I was facing this way. He was behind me. He had his hand on my upper thigh and his shoulder on my back. And so I knew if I turned and faced out, I was going to get skied and for 4 points and also off the stage likely. So it was like, okay, I have nowhere else to go but continue to go in this direction. So then it's like, okay, I'm eyeing up my safe landing off the stage because I promised Hunter Campbell that I wouldn't get hurt. I asked him, I said, hey, can I do this? And he said, well, you can get hurt? I said, well, I've never been hurt wrestling before, so I think it's probably unlikely. So literally I'm thinking, oh, fuck, I told Hunter I wasn't going to get hurt. You know? And then I got to land safely. So when I landed safely, I'm like, I only gave up 1 point. I landed safely. We're all good.
We're good. All right.
That's funny, man.
I give you a lot of credit for taking that match and doing that for wrestling. Yeah. My hat's off to you, brother. That, you know, I thought it was great.
Appreciate it.
So speaking of like with wrestling, like what was I'm friends with T Wood, but what was your relationship when he was in college?
Well, Tyron's older than me by 2 years. And we had a team that we were all close. Like, I mean, just to this day, I probably, honestly, on a monthly basis, I probably speak with 20 to 25 members of that team, you know, text, some form, right? Some form or fashion. And so we're all really close. And so I had a great relationship with Tyron. You know, he was one of the leaders of that generation, meaning he, you know, when Coach Smith got there in 99, there was one group before Tyron. Tyron was the first recruiting class. And so he was one of the first, along with a few other people, were the first people to take a chance on Coach Smith in Missouri. And, you know, without Tyron and a couple of those other guys, I probably don't see the promise and I probably don't end up going to Missouri. So he was kind of a leader in that aspect. You know, one thing that I was just thinking about the other day, and it's like, wow, I haven't thought about that in a while. Tyron was actually the president of the Student Athletic Council when I was a sophomore, and then I became the president of the Student Athletic Council as a senior. So we both have always had strong voices and been leaders and been willing to stick up for, you know, what we believe in, which I think if you pay attention to our MMA crew, we've also stuck up for what we believed in. And so, you know, then obviously we remained friends, but we didn't see each other that often, you know, every once in a while MMA thing. But when he started coming to Milwaukee to train at Rufus, which I believe was 2015 was when he first started training here for his fight. So he'd be here for 6 weeks at a time. And so that, you know, that was when we got to start hanging out quite a bit again.
What was the reason why he left ATT? Because he was down at ATT for a while, and then he left there right after he lost the title. He left, and then he started training over at Rufus's, right?
Well, no, he was never.
No, it was before.
Yeah, before. He was never full-time out of Florida. He ran, he's mainly out of St. Louis. He ran a affiliate ATT school out of St. Louis. I know Dean Thomas was always his main coach, and Dean Thomas would come to Milwaukee with him. Dean's awesome.
Yes.
And I think he would go visit and then bring people in. I remember a bunch of stories of him paying Colby as a training partner when Colby was coming up, but him taking care of Colby. And that's when Colby started acting such a dipshit. Tyron's like, dude, you're such a...
Excuse me. What? Stop. I didn't hear you. What was that?
Colby acting like a dipshit?
Colby.
Yeah,
man.
so... so you know what? I can't remember exactly what was the flip. I tried getting Tyron to come up here a bunch of times. I think there's one time he maybe came and checked it out and he kind of liked it and it felt good to him and he stuck around. But yeah, I would have to go back to his record to see exactly which fight it was. And obviously, I ended up cornering him in a handful of the fights. So we're close. I actually just asked him if I think he's got Colby on the table. He did not confirm or deny to me that they were fighting, and maybe that's maybe Dana told him he can't tell anybody.
Yeah. So is that potentially a fight for 249?
Yes,
I've
heard that.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That's crazy, man, to think. What do you like when you go back and watch some of T Wood's fights, if you watch his Usman fight, what were some takeaways from that when you watched it?
He got inside his own head for that fight. Tyron actually had the anxiety is negatively correlated with performance, and Tyron's really super intelligent, and so he always had this issue in college where against the better guys sometimes he wouldn't pull the trigger, and I felt like he got over that in the Robbie Lawler fight, and then for whatever reason it just came back in the Usman fight. So I just looked at his record. I believe his first fight with Rufus was the Kelvin Gastelum fight, which is in Vegas, and I cornered him for that fight.
Got it.
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, I just, what you've done as far as your style of wrestling and how it's translated with other guys. You're coaching of a lot of guys from Rufus Sports. Their wrestling has improved so much out of that camp. Yeah. Taking a look at guys like Pettis, the Pettis brothers, and I'll tell you right now, Emmanuel Sanchez, he was a kickboxer. Yeah. And his wrestling and his ground game now are absolutely sensational. Wow. And his wrestling is really good because of you.
I can't take credit because I haven't coached him since like 2017. So, but, yeah.
Well, he's giving credit to you.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, he's doing a great job. I believe was he in the quarters or semis of that welterweight or featherweight tournament?
Well, they're starting the quarters right now. His fight was one of the fights that were supposed to happen in Connecticut when
his fight was canceled.
They canceled it.
Yeah, so his fight got canceled.
I forgot he was on the card. I actually had one of the guys that works for me who's going to run one of my new academies, Jordan Not Human Newman. He was on that card, and so I was kind of keeping up to date with him. And it was like they even did the weigh-ins, didn't they? Right?
Oh yeah,
they did everything. It was the day of the fight at noon. They called and just said, "Hey, it's off."
Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think honestly, because they had that press release at 3:00 and they announced it, the president had the press release at 3:00 that he was going to come out and basically say, hey, we're doing a travel ban. We're doing lockdowns. We're doing everything. And so I think Bellator just said, hey, you know what? Let's get everyone home. Because we had a couple guys from Russia. So they just started talking. We had one kid from Brazil. It's just like, hey, let's just get everybody home. Make sure that everyone's at their own location. Not have to worry about the stress of trying to get them home after the fact. And and I'm glad they were able to pay everyone and get everyone paid up. But
yeah, that was awesome that they did that.
Yeah, to go back to what we were talking about with the trades and everything, we're going to start seeing, I think, also managers start putting no trade clauses in the contracts. I mean, I think you may.
There's only been one.
I know, but I'm saying if this ends up being one of those things. Because I've said for years, I said, look, if you've been in the UFC for, let's say, for 3 or 4 fights, and you know that they're not really pushing you to be the guy, you need to get out. Because that means that they're potentially never going to make you the guy. After you've had 3, let's say you had 3 good wins, and they're not really making a push for you to get on that main card or for you to be, in any of the posters or flyers or any of the marketing advertisements. After 3 or 4 good wins, I think it's time to start thinking about, hey, if I don't keep getting these wins, or if they're not pushing me more, you need to start looking for your exit, because they do have a thing for looks. This is the entertainment business. They have a thing for looks. They have a thing for style, and this is the entertainment business. If you know that that's not happening, and they could potentially trade you, you don't want to be traded to maybe a company that you don't want to work for. Like if you're somebody right now and being traded to the PFL, you're thinking to yourself, well, shit, that's a big step from the UFC to the PFL. I'm going backwards. And this is not where you want to be. And so you're going to start seeing, I think, fighters.
Well, if you're going backwards, you can win $1 million.
You could. Yeah. I agree with you. I know financially, I'm sure maybe that's the thing, but like a lot of these guys, they hinge on the fact of like, oh, I want to fight in the UFC. I get there and I'm going to fight in the UFC. I mean, I've heard guys say like, I want to leave my promotion to try to get to the UFC, and then they left the promotion, never went back, and they never went to the UFC, and now they're trying to get back in the same promotion they tried to leave. And so I think if we do see a couple more trades, we could potentially start seeing how contracts are negotiated like they are for NBA and and NFL and all those clauses as well. I can't see, if you have good managers, I think that'd be the way to go about it too, to making sure you're not traded to a lesser
I think we're going
organization.
to see that happen a few more times.
Yes.
Before, that they'll go, and then even when you get to that point, it's going to be few and far between where the managers actually have the amount of power where they can say, this is what I want. Because right now, if some rinky-dink manager says that, they're going to say, get lost.
Yeah, we're done. We're done with all your other. We won't sign any of your other fighters either.
Blow in.
Yeah, that's kind of how the negotiations go normally with the UFC. Is like, hey, let me, if you do me a favor with this one guy, okay, I'll give you 2 other guys, whatever. So there's a lot of negotiation. The UFC is like, hey, if your guy's not going to fall in line, then I don't need to worry about signing any of your other fighters as well. And is this kind of where we need to start talking about fighters unions, start getting this all together for these athletes?
Hold it. Let's go back in time here just a little bit, Josh, okay? Because you're sitting
John's
here
taking us way
like,
back at 75 years old.
Oh, this hasn't happened. Do you recall, and you brought up when Sean Shirk fought Matt Hughes at UFC 42. Yeah. Okay, he was managed by who?
Dwayne Zinkin.
Monty?
Dwayne Zinkin, because Monty Cox was his manager.
Yep.
Was in jail.
And Monty couldn't get him into the UFC because Dana said, you have too many fighters in the UFC. That's too much power. So I'm going to tell all fighters that no, they don't want to sign with you because then they won't come here.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Monty was actually giving up fighters so they could get into the UFC.
Crazy. Did not realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
let's go back and look at the real history of how things happen.
Good stuff.
John's got the throwbacks, baby.
I got the throwbacks.
He's got the throw. But what do we do with it? Like, do we start? I don't see any way of getting a union done for the fighters, because somebody will always come in and fight for less. No different than the NFL when they had scabs. No different than the basketball. They'll start. Someone will always come in. Maybe it won't be the top-notch MMA that people are used to seeing, but the demographic or the TV now for the shows has changed. Back when Strikeforce was around, it was who wants to see fun fights? And even back then, the UFC, they were on that trajectory of we just want to have the best fights. Yeah. Strikeforce was we want to have fun fights, and we have good fights and we have the best fights at occasions, but we want to have fun fights for the fans. That now is all changed, and I think UFC they've put it on fights that are like they want to see the best fighters fight each other. That's kind of what boxing had turned into after years. So I think we're starting to see that the fans really only care about the top echelon of guys. Even with the Bellator guys, they want to see Lima fight. They want to see Patricio fight. They want to see Chandler fight. They're not tuning in to watch the young guys be built anymore. And that's what made Strikeforce popular, was the young guys being built. DC, even though he wasn't young at the time, but DC, DC, you got Rockhold was a young guy. Trevor Prangley wasn't young, but I was kind of a younger guy. Gilbert Melendez, younger guy. Kung was
Michael
older.
Chandler.
Chandler. But like Mike, what's it called? Cain Velasquez fought in Strikeforce. Amanda Nunes fought in Strikeforce. Ronda Rousey, Miesha Tate.
There you go.
All of them. So they were into watching young up and coming stars go out there, potential stars, lay it on the line. Now we're getting the viewership. The casual fan is just tuning in only to watch the big names.
Yeah. Well, I would argue I don't. I see what you're saying, and obviously the undercards build stars, but I would argue that stars have always driven ratings. I mean, that's just human nature. Is that you don't watch. I mean, in sports, it's you watch the team, but in fighting or in individual sports, you don't watch for because you like the sport, right? There's that baseline, and I think MMA, it's like 150, 200,000 people might really like it enough to watch no matter who's out there. But then when Conor comes, you're going to see the gigantic spike. When Ronda was there, gigantic spike. Daniel Cormier, John Jones, a little less of a spike. And so I think personalities definitely drive the amount of people who are going to watch.
Good. So to go back a little bit more in history with you at Bellator, would you have wished to have left straight from there? And I'm not trying to knock One FC at all. I've worked for them. I like Chaudhry's great, and Victor Q and Matt Human, all those guys, phenomenal people. Rich Franklin, all those guys. But how do you think your career would have been different had you been just from Bellator straight to, because during that time, who'd they have? They had Hendricks, John Fitch, GSP. I think those were the top 3 guys. Thiago Alves. Robbie
would become the champ in 2014, right?
Yep. Okay.
Or 13. So, yeah, I mean, it was Hendricks and Lawler, I believe, at the time. I want to say the title fight, Hendricks-Lawler, I'm forgetting which one was like right after I signed with One Championship. One of those. So that's right in the time era. I don't know. I don't like the thing. Like when you worry or think or consider all these things that could have happened that won't happen, they'll never happen again because, right, I'm old now, getting my hip done, and I can't rewind history. I don't like considering a thing about it. My path went where it went. It was a really good ride. I had a great time. I actually, despite people hating Bjorn, I had a great time in Bellator. I had a great time at One Championship, and despite Dana and me not having a relationship still, I had a great time in the UFC. So I had a good time in all 3 promotions. It was a unique path, a path that I think very few people have ever traveled. And would I have maybe had more success had I went to the UFC in 2013? Sure, but I don't get to play that back.
Yeah. It's a good outlook. It's the way you look. Things are. It is what it is. Yeah, that's what I tell people all the time. Look, it is what it is, and there's nothing you can do to change it. You can sit there and dwell on it and say, "Well, if I'd have gotten there when my hip wasn't bad, I would have been able to do a lot. I was faster than." Yeah, you were, and you would have been better, but just wasn't. It wasn't meant to be, and what's meant to be is meant to be. And just you've had a great career, and you were fun. You were fun to watch because you could watch from the beginning of your career in MMA. You did evolve as far as your ground game. As far as the ground and pound, you didn't know how to ground and pound at all when you started. It was bad. You were just wrestling. What?
I was thinking about this show. I remember John. I don't even think I had a fight at the time. I don't think I'd fought one time. I'm sorry. Maybe it was like once. But I remember I came to AK and Josh helped me hit the bag. Showed me how to throw some punches right.
Oh, Jesus. That had to be a disaster unto itself.
I was a nice guy. People don't understand how nice I was.
A really nice guy. He reached out to the new guy.
So hold on. So what you're saying is that Josh Thompson gave you the base for your striking, which everyone has always known you as a striker. Right?
I'm going to take credit for that.
You want to hear the other funny story? I think this was before Daniel ever fought also. Me and Daniel, we were on the Olympic team together. And I don't think he had fought, and maybe it was he had one fight or something also. It was really big. But there was this fat Japanese guy, and I'm going to I think I was there for 2 or 3 days, and he goes, "Hey Ben, usually I beat up on this guy because he's really easy." He said, "But today you're a new guy. I'm gonna let you beat up on him." And he goes, "Hey, come over here. This is Ben. Why don't you spar a couple rounds with him?" And the guy was so terrible. It was hilarious.
Oh man, I want to say it was Fujita.
Was it?
I think it was Fujita.
No,
was it? Oh,
yeah.
Right? No, and Fujita's not fat.
He's a heavier stock.
Vegeta's a brick.
He wasn't like round, but he was like really big.
He was. Yeah, he was. It was. I think it was Vegeta before he fought. Was it Fedor?
Fedor?
When he fought,
I don't know. He was really bad because I had been fighting for maybe 3 to 6 months, and he was a terrible striker, and I was holding my own against him.
Yeah, he wasn't a striker at all. Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
it was classic.
Terrible.
We've had so many guys come through AKA over the years. I mean, it was. Yeah. You were one of them. T Woods come a couple times. I mean, we've had so many guys trickle through that door, especially guys from from Pride in Japan because of Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson had such a connection with all the guys from back in the day. Fajita, TK, Kosaka. He came through. All those guys. We had guys come through there all the time. It was fun. Great place to be there, and you see it now too with the Russians. You got all these young, talented guys coming over there from there.
Yeah.
Ben, your last fight in one was against Aoki.
Aoki, yeah, that was my retirement.
Known as the ground specialist, and your last fight in UFC was against Damian Maia. What was the difference?
Both in Singapore.
Yeah. What was the difference in their ground styles that you saw? You obviously got the win against Aoki with ground and pound fast, but what was the difference?
I mean, Aoki, he's smaller, obviously, so that's a big one. Damian he's as good as it gets. I mean, that's all there is to it. With Damian, I knew,
solid.
But it was probably the only fight in my career where I said I actually have to get good takedowns. I can't just dive. Most people's eyes dive in, whatever. It's fucking grab their leg. I'll figure it out. I'll get on top. No big deal. With Damian, it's actually I'm not gonna take a shitty shot, because if I do that, I'm gonna be in a bad position, and if I get him on top of me, that's gonna be an issue. And so I was really careful with all my takedowns, and then on that last one, obviously I got really sloppy and I got swept. And then once I got swept, it's I thought at least in my head, I was winning that round, and said, okay, well, but if I stay mounted, I'm obviously going to lose this round. And I think if I win this round, I'll be up 3-0. And that's a really good spot to be in. And I had trained so much back defense, and I had a really good high level guy with me. Obviously not as high level as Damian. And I thought, hey, I really don't have any worry about turning over and giving my back. I'm going to get out of this position. And I wasn't able to do it. So, yeah, I mean, bad decision on my part. But, before that, the fight was actually going pretty well, kind of the way I planned it to go up to that point.
You have guys in their careers that they do things really well. Like Randy Couture was one of them. You knew what he was going to do. He's going to dirty box you, press you to the fence, take you down. You can't stop it. You were one of those guys. John Fitch was one of those guys for a while there. Yep. You have guys that specifically are going to do things. And we had Chael on yesterday, and one time he had compared John Fitch to Babe Ruth. Like, he calls his own shots, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Yeah. And I said, well, that was a little far fetched, but it was it is. You have guys.
This is a teammate of John Fitch. This is him backing him up.
He's one of my boys, man.
Exactly right,
I've told him multiple times, hey, you got to open up on the striking a little bit more. He's like, nah, fuck that, man. I'm getting the win. That was it. That was every conversation we ever had with him. But you were one of those guys that did that, and then to go out there and fight someone like Damian Maia. That you kind of playing right into his game is where he wants it to be. And he's also one of those guys, guys that were, he knew that they were going to take him down. He'd hit you with the same takedowns almost every time against the fence, hook the leg, drag you down, whatever it was. I mean, was your preparation different because you knew you had to stand more?
It was just the knowledge. I mean, I always trained my stand up. I just, again, if you take the Masvidal fight out of there, in what fight hasn't it worked? It worked in 19 out of 19. And so people want to have this look back and say, oh, well, you should have done something different. Well, motherfucker, I won 19 fights in a row. Like, if you won 19 in a row, you wouldn't do anything different either, Yeah. So it's like, so I had always trained stand up, but it was just, again, I won 19 fights in a row. So what I was doing was working. And, then the Masvidal thing, that happens. But it's like, again, how frequently is that knee going to land that perfect? Maybe not that often. It did that night, and that's all that matters. But then, with Maia, I was training to stand up. And again, just so I knew I had to have good takedowns. I couldn't do shitty takedowns, which is what I did against a lot of people. I'll just do whatever. And, even if somehow, like Lima, a couple of times I just did some shit and I landed up a bottom, but it was so easy to then scramble into a position where I'm going to end up on top. And in Maia, I knew I couldn't do that. So I just had to be more focused and concise with my takedowns.
19 fights in a row you talked about, and then you see Khabib right now. He's what, 28-0.
Yeah.
And you guys are not similar styles. You guys are both wrestlers, and like you have that like, hey, this, if it's not broke, I'm not going to try to fix it. Just keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Do you see like maybe people will start to figure you out as you go? But here, both of you guys were at the top for so long. No one ever figured you guys out until that very last little bit. Are we going to potentially see like Tony or Gaethje or one of these guys figure out Khabib, or do you think he's going to bounce before up to 170 maybe? before.
Well, hey, I got to run. I'll answer this question. I got to run, guys. I'm sorry. I didn't realize how long this is going to go.
No worries.
With Tony, I think it's the most interesting fight. I mean, you said this earlier. It's the most interesting fight with Khabib because he's going to take Tony down. I mean, Tony has wrestling, but it's not that great. He's going to get taken down, but he's so active off his back. He's unique. He's going to strike. He's going to fight hard. He's probably not going to get tired, which is, that's the issue with a lot of guys against Khabib is they get tired. They can't handle the pressure. And then the other thing on his feet, he's a volume striker. And that, for me, and me and Khabib do have similar styles. It's much worse to fight a volume striker than a power striker because the power striker, they're going to sit down on the punch, and as soon as they sit down, you just smother them and attack them, and it's no problem. Tony, a volume striker, he's just going to hit and hit and hit, and even if Khabib gets a takedown the first round and keeps him down, second round keeps him down, he's going to keep trying to pound him in the third round. Throw the volume punch in the third round, and so that's where I'm genuinely, I'm curious to see what happens when those two fight. I don't really know. I know a bunch of different scenarios that can happen, but I don't really know for sure, and I'm curious to see what happens.
All right, last thing. Is there anything you want to promote before you go, like your show, your podcast, your IG pages and Twitter and stuff?
Yeah, I'm all over the place. You can find me just at Ben Askren everywhere. I do a podcast with O'Brien on the Rockfin Network. John Fitch is on the Rockfin Network also. And then I'm on at Flow Radio. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Cool. So, and what's your wrestling camps? What are they called?
We're called Askren Wrestling Academy. So we have unfortunately we opened 4 and 5 last month, like a week before the shutdown. So but we got 5 schools. And I guess we have an online thing too. If you're bored and you're at home, it's awonline.tv.
All right, perfect. Hey, my man, I appreciate you coming on, man. We'll try to get you on again hopefully soon.
Ben.
All right, my man.
Guys.
Talk to you later, bud.
See ya.
Later.
All right, John. Well, we just had Ben Askren on, and hope you guys like that. Couple things. And what'd you think about everything he said?
First off, he's always been an honest, good-hearted, just a good guy who's, he put up with a lot because when he was the champion in Bellator, he was dominant and he was dominating good fighters, although they weren't the same fighters at that point that they are now in some ways. But when he had the chance, because he was being told that hey, we're interested in you, and then whatever happened that made it to where Dana kind of started putting him down. That was unfortunate, but he made the best of it. He went to one. He made a lot of money there, which was good for him. That's how he's able to open up his academies and stuff. And he was smart about it. Just did what he was supposed to do. Just keep winning, and eventually he got into the UFC. Unfortunately, people have no idea how broken Ben is off of injuries. He's got, he needs a hip replacement. It's very tough to train for a fight when you're hurting all the time with that type of injury. So just a great guy, and appreciate his time. Yeah,
I had some major injuries throughout my career, but I got to tell you, like, I can't imagine my hip. Like, my low back kind of gives me a lot of trouble right now. Every morning I get out of bed, it takes me a good 5 minutes to get out of bed. Like, I sit up on the edge, and I usually use a couple cuss words first before I stand up, and I make it to my feet, and that's, I know exactly that, but it's not to the point of a hip, like it's just a tight back, a tight back, and ankles and feet are just always killing me because I kick so much throughout my career.
It's tough to, you can stretch a back. All right. Yeah. It's not that, when it's hurting, but try stretching your hip, especially that front adductor thing. And it is not easy to do, man. It's a pain in the ass, and it never, ever, it just tightens right back up so fast. It's not fun.
I don't like to play the what ifs, but I do like to wonder where he would have been at had he came over to the UFC instead of going to one first. Because at that time of the guys that were there,
it was the people that were there that were doing well. He matched up incredibly well with.
Yep.
The best striker of the bunch was George.
Yeah.
By far. And the whole thing with George was playing fights safer at that time and utilizing his wrestling, and his MMA wrestling was really good. And the question was, hey man, George's wrestling is not good enough to stop what Ben Askren does.
No, I mean, I've had guys from T Wood to DC to other guys telling me, like, all Ben had to do was lock these 2 fingers around your leg, and he would have made his way all the way to a takedown. I mean, he would figure
things out, man. And that's exactly what he was talking about. He would get in the worst positions ever. You would see him in wrestling matches where he was underneath smash down. And he would be in that position where he's just got his hands around, and he would work his way into getting that takedown, getting that reversal. Yeah. It's what made him funky, and that's why they called him the funky one, man. He was awesome.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I would. You heard him already. He gave me all the credit for his stand-up. I want to take credit for that as well. But
if there's one thing you don't want to take credit for, it's Ben Askren's stand-up.
I gave him the foundation, and that's why he stood with Damian Maia, because he believed in what I taught him.
They will tell you that the foundation is everything.
Yes.
And so you built a foundation of styrofoam.
Hey, at least he was able to use it a couple times to get him in on the takedown. I got to tell you, I'm very proud to hear that come out of his mouth. I'm going to take full credit for that and responsibility for that. Honestly, you guys are watching, I'm going to pat myself on the back. If you guys at home are just listening on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, all those places. Okay, you guys, I just patted myself on the back. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
You take credit for my edits as well, so I mean, it doesn't surprise me.
Not because I'm the one that tells you how to edit. That's tell you where to start it, where to stop it. I mean,
that's all right, Dave. We know who really does the work.
Oh, geez, don't worry. This guy.
You're sitting fine.
Oh gosh, it's really hard to work in this environment. I'm gonna call.
I get all these texts from Dave. Hey, can you just tell Josh to shut up?
This is a really tough environment to work. I'm gonna call HR. It's been great. Which, by the way, HR is me. Hello. It's. I don't know what it is. There's something about him that is unique to me. Not because I've met him before, trained with him a little bit before, but it's just, there's something about him that's unique. It's like people look at him and say he's boring, but he's not controversial. He just says what's on his mind. And what's on his mind it's the truth. Like you said, oh, the relationship with Dana. He's like, it's non-existent. Like most people would be like, oh yeah, I talk to Dana all the time. People trying to drop names, people trying to, hang clouts on, on that. We've seen that with other guys, and Dana's called them out on it. Like, nah, I don't fucking talk to you. I don't even know who this guy is. He shows up at my event and sponsors UFC. There's things that, like there's, you know what I mean? Like the people have been called out for, like, they're not knowing. He's legit just not trying to clout off somebody else's name. Like, oh, Dana and I are friends. No, we're not friends.
I talked to Hunter Campbell.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No.
And if you want to get something done, Hunter's a good person to get it done in the UFC, so it's smart.
All I was going to say was, for casuals like me, Ben Askren's different in that he's very entertaining. So even though people say the style is boring, still, like, you want to watch him fight because you want to see the outcome, because he hypes it up. Where other people with similar fight styles, they don't build the fight in the same way to where you're excited to see the fight regardless of what the fight looks like. You know what I'm saying?
Well, let's talk about it. John Fitch, same thing. Like, if he had more of the personality that Ben did, I think people would still just tune in, whether to see him get beat or whether to see him win, but realistically, to see what goes on fight week. Because if you guys remember, during that time when he first went, to the UFC, there was altercations with him and Masvidal in the hallways, altercation between him and Usman passing, like talking trash, and there's already, though, that brings more excitement throughout the week of what goes on.
As simple as it gets. People can say whatever they want about Ben. When Ben went to the UFC, he didn't have any boring fights. No. His fight against Robbie was spectacular in what he was able to accept and how bad Robbie was hurting him in the beginning, and to come out of it. And then his fight with Masvidal, although it didn't end for him in a good way, was spectacular as far as just the landing of that knee and how fast that knockout was. And then his fight with Damian was a great fight. If you like the ground game, that fight was fantastic. There was a lot of stuff going on. Hey, you can't please everybody. No, all you can do is be yourself, do what you can do. And that is exactly what I think Dave is talking about. Is Ben has always been himself. He's been honest. He'll tell you the way he thinks it. And what more can you ask from somebody?
Well, I think Dave likes it because it has a little bit of that WWE feel to it. And that's what Dave, flocks to.
It does not have that, because there's truth to everything Ben says.
that is true.
It's his truth.
But it has the hype of like a WWE thing, like where one guy says, I'm going to do this to you, or I can beat you and do this. I liked it. Other things. It was funny. I watched a little clip about him calling him Marty Usman. And then he's like, why'd you start that? I want to say Bisping asked him, why'd you start? He's like, because that was his damn name. Like there was no lie about it. He wasn't trying to call call him a name. That's what he knew him as. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that that's, he's like, no, before he changed his name and he used to wrestle Marty. In the same, his name was Marty. And it was eye-opening to me because I never looked into it really all that much. I thought it was just Ben being Ben and being like, hey, you know what? I'm going to call you Marty because you look like a Marty or whatever. I don't know. But it was great having him on. I enjoyed it. And yeah, man, yesterday we had Chael and today we've got, Ben. Shit, I mean, what's next? Who knows? We'll see. I'm excited.
Dana White.
I heard you know a guy from Dagestan who holds the UFC title.
Yeah, I want to wait till all this dies down before I talk to him because
don't hit him up when things are right in the middle of it. Wait until it's over.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
I know. I mean, he's getting pulled in a bunch of different directions right now. I hate to be one of those like friends.
No, don't be that guy.
Yeah, I don't want to be that guy. Oh yeah, can you come on my show? Because I don't like to be that person. But it is. I would love to have him on. We know that we've had him on. I've had him on twice already before previously, but he's.
So what do you think? What is it? First off,
I don't think it's going to happen.
You honestly think? Do you think Khabib is fighting at all?
No, I don't.
Neither do I.
I don't.
Do you think 249 is going to happen?
No, I don't.
You don't.
I don't.
Not at all.
No, I don't think the car's going to happen.
Car's not going to happen.
I don't.
They're going to call it.
I think so. I think he really is going to push the issue to make it happen. If it does make sense for it to be in Chechnya, if you do it there, yeah. But I mean, it's going to be hard to get fighters to be like, yeah, I'm going to go to Chechnya.
Well, I mean, if you look at and this is like I said, I've been there, and there's one flight. I'm telling you, people don't believe me when I say this. Okay, this is you flying into Chechnya. You touch the ground at about 2:30 in the morning, okay, and they just get you through the little areas real quick. They do your passport and stuff. Getting out of Chechnya, is that a special thing?
But couldn't they fly them privately? That's the thing. They don't have to go on that 2:30 in the morning flight.
You would think they would have to, but think of the cost.
Yeah.
Of flying private jets to Chechnya. Man, that's a lot of fucking ducats.
I mean, here's my thing: is I really feel like if you only have one fight or two fights or whatever, you can have it.
I don't think that's what they're trying to do, though.
I know. I know.
He's trying to put, and I give Dana credit for trying to. Yep. He's trying to put on this incredible main card.
No.
And like I didn't even bring it up, but the Tyron Woodley versus Colby was supposedly going to be part of that card. That's a great fight. He was trying to put this incredible main card on. So if he can do it, hats off to him. Congratulations. Man, it's it's one of those things when everything is just working against you.
Yeah.
Everything, every time you think, okay, we're going in this direction, and then boom, something else happens. And you go, I can't go in that direction. I got to go in this direction. And I think that's just what's happening with what we have going on right now. And it's not their fault. They're trying. It's just I don't think it's going to be the end success.
I'm not trying to be negative. I really want to see the fight. I really do. But here's the thing: I want to see the best version of these two guys because we've waited this long. I don't want to get the half-ass version. If I wanted to get that, I'd go back and watch all of fucking Floyd Mayweather fights where he waited till the guy was out of his prime to fight him. I don't want to see that.
The other part you don't want to have where someone has the excuse.
Yeah,
I don't want them to have the excuse. Well, hey, look, I only got to train for. Or I didn't know. And so I actually stopped. I don't want that. That's, like you say, I want guys to be, go there, do their very best, give, whatever they have and no excuses off of it. You win, you lose, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I want to see the best version of every fighter that's on that card, but specifically, I want to see the best version of Khabib and Tony, and we're not going to get that. No matter what they do and where they put the fight, we will not get the best version of both those guys, and that's not fair to either one, and that's not fair to the fans that have waited this long. 5 times they've tried to get this fight to happen, and it's not fair. It really isn't.
Well, the latest that I heard, people were talking about is, they should strip Khabib. I'm like. Strip him of why? For
what? Because of a worldwide pandemic that happened without his control? It doesn't make any sense.
You allowed a worldwide pandemic to happen, and you didn't fight during it? That's it. Strip him.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
I had people saying I was a hard ass for saying, they should strip John because of, problems with the law. Not saying they're going to do that. I don't think. In fact, I think this actually helps John.
Yeah, it does.
In them saying that, we're just going to let that ride, let it go. But I couldn't believe people are saying, yeah, you need to strip Khabib, make Justin versus Tony for the light. I'm like, You guys are crazy.
It's dumb. Like my concern with that Justin versus Tony is, let's just say Justin beats him. Now Justin's got to fight Khabib, and they're both managed by the same guy. I just don't. You're gonna end up with more complications behind the scenes.
I'm all about Justin fighting Khabib.
Yeah, but I don't think it'll happen. That's the thing. Ali's gonna find a way to make sure that both these guys are not getting screwed. I mean, maybe they will for a big extent amount of money. I don't know, but I don't see that benefiting. I don't see that benefiting the fighters that are both managed by the same guy. I think it's going to get complicated in there.
Isn't Cejudo managed by Ali?
Yes.
Isn't Marlon Moraes managed by Ali?
I don't think so.
Really?
I don't think Moraes is.
Okay, I might be wrong.
I don't think he is.
I was thinking he was.
Maybe. He might be. Because I do know that because he was friends with, because, when I first originally met Ali, it was at Frankie's gym out there when he was training him. And I met Ali through Frankie. He could be, but I don't think he is. I don't think he is. Or maybe he was. And
I'm looking at the list right now.
Yeah, of who he manages.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen him in the last couple pictures.
Come on, make me right, Dave.
Because you know how they've been doing those, Ali's been doing those, whatever his name of his management company is. He's been doing like these shows.
Dominance.
Dominance. He's been doing pressers or whatever the week of the big fights with all of his guys. He brings them all together and does it. It's a pretty good idea. But I don't think I've seen Moraes there. I've seen, all the other guys.
His list is crazy, man.
Yeah, his list is crazy.
I still can't see him on here, but I'm scrolling.
You would think heuld be at the top considering.
Yeah. Oh, no, he is there.
Oh, is he? Okay,
Yep.
I guess so. Interesting.
He's near the bottom, but yeah, he's there.
All right,
near the bottom.
The one last thing we're going to talk. Let's talk one last thing because we're going to cut off here. But one last thing after for this, the Cody Garbrandt talks about cutting down to 125.
Fucking crazy.
Okay.
Don't do it. As simple as it gets. Take a look at TJ.
Yeah.
Okay. TJ cut down. Cody at 135 he's a pretty big 135er. It's not like he's small. Okay, he took the title from Dominic.
Yeah.
Was he bigger or smaller than Dominic?
I think they look the same. Dominic seems like he's pretty big for 35, though.
He is pretty big for. Yeah. Okay, he's pretty big for 135, and they were the same size.
Okay.
That's my whole point. He lost to Pedro Munoz. Pedro Munoz is a guy that I said, yeah, he could fight at 125. Mm-hmm. He's smaller, he's a little stocky, but shorter. Whenever you're getting into guys that are about that 5'7", 5'6", 5'7", mm-hmm. and getting into 125, man, you got to have that frame built that I don't think Cody has.
Got it.
Cody's a pretty solid guy.
Yeah.
And I think him trying to get to 125 is going to be too much.
Do you think he's an emotional fighter looking for an easy way out, kind of?
He's an emotional fighter. No doubt about it.
Easy way
out. Do you think because he's basically saying, instead of trying to control my emotions at 35 and get back on track, I'm just going to go to 25 and be the bigger guy and take the belt down there.
Yeah, but then you're dealing with the speed.
Yeah, see, and being the bigger, stronger guy doesn't just work, because when you're talking about fighting, not one guy that I know will sit there and say, I would rather fight the faster guy than the bigger, stronger guy.
Yeah. Here's the thing. When he fought Dom, he was faster than Dom. When he fought TJ, he was faster than TJ. He's faster than guys at 35. Okay, maybe he doesn't have the same amount of crack and power as some of those guys, but he's got it. He does have crack and power.
Oh, yeah, he's got power in his hands.
He's got the speed.
For a lighter weight guy, he can crack.
He's got the speed, but what I feel like he lacks, and it's been shown, is the fight IQ when he gets hit.
He lacks
it's the emotion. It's the discipline and the emotion. He lets the emotion control what happens in those fights.
When Cody gets hit by somebody, mm-hmm. he gets mad and he wants to hit them back.
Yep.
Instead of saying, it's okay, let me collect myself, let me reset, let me come about trying to touch you with a good shot, being smart, he starts to wing shots, starts to open up. He gives an opening that sometimes guys are able to touch his chin. He had TJ hurt in the first fight. Yep. It's just that the round was near the end. And then he opened up in the second. And when you open up, there's an opening for them to get that counter in. And that's what TJ did. But Cody just needs to get back to being a smart fighter. He's got all the tools. He's tough. He hits like a truck for 135 pounds. Yep. He just needs to be disciplined.
What he needs to do is he needs to have a replay every single fight of when he fought Dom. When he fought Dom, he didn't let his emotions get the better of him. He was having fun.
I was so impressed. I did that fight, and he would sit there, and Dom would lead him into something, and he would nope, and he would back off and say, hey, right here.
Yeah.
And he always fought under control during that entire fight, and he was doing little break dancing stuff and everything, and all that bullshit, but he was having fun. And he was the guy in control.
That lightened the moment inside the cage. He didn't let Dom get to him. He understood what was at stake. I felt like that was the best kid that we've ever seen step in that cage. Best Cody we've ever seen step in that cage. He needs to fight with that type of just confidence, relaxation in there, and having fun. If you go back and you watch the other two TJ fights, he got coaxed into like a brawl, and that's not where you want to be. That second time when he lost the second fight, he threw the same overhand right 3 times in a row, and TJ just hit him with the same punch 3 times in a row until he got knocked out. It wasn't like anything changed. Had he just got hit, boom, circled out, and threw his combinations, reset like you said, reset and threw again, we would have seen probably a different type of fight. I'm not saying he would have still won, but I'm saying we would have seen a different type of fight.
He got it in his head. He needed to knock TJ out.
Yeah.
You don't need to knock TJ out. Nice. You just need to do what you need to do to win the fight.
Yeah.
That knockout will come if you allow it. If you force it, normally it doesn't show up.
Yeah. All right, my man. Well, I'm going to wrap this up. Hey, you guys, if you guys are listening at home, The Real Punk, Instagram and Twitter. Hit us up, Weighing In Show on Instagram, and go to our YouTube channel, iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Spotify, all those things. Hit subscribe, hit the thumbs up. Appreciate you guys. Numbers are growing, and hopefully you guys enjoy these last 2 shows. We had Cheo on yesterday. We had Ben Askren on today. We're going to try to do more guests, but we also, John and I, like to talk amongst ourselves, as you can tell. We're very long-winded.
Not us.
But we're very grateful. Honestly, our numbers are continuing to grow. I think we're doing almost 1,000 subscribers a week. Please keep sharing our videos, the thumbs up, and that helps get our video out. We appreciate you guys. Also, 5,000 thumbs up this time. We easily beat the 1,000 last time. Dave was trying to tell me that. And want to try to get to 5,000. We were just under that last time. So let's try and hit that 5,000 mark. Thumbs up, please. If you guys are on iTunes, any of the other listening platforms, please go to YouTube, hit the thumbs up as well. That helps show our videos. I appreciate you guys. ProWrestlingTees.com /Josh Thompson Official. Pick up your Weighing In t-shirt. As well, if you guys post a picture of that, tag us in it, and we'll repost it as well as for Big John and I. I'll repost it for sure. Big John, I don't know. Okay, but we appreciate you guys. Thank you guys. You guys stay safe. Big John, you got anything else to say?
Everyone, stay healthy.
Stay healthy.
Take care. Thanks for listening.
Nothing? Good. I didn't want to hear you anyways. All right, guys, we're out of here. Have a good one. Stay safe.